Welcome to the Bleep Bulimia podcast with guest Helen Sernett, sleep evangelist and podcast host of Sleepless. Hi everyone, I am Lorianne. I am the host of Bleep Midlife Bulimia, and I am very pleased to have Helen Sernett, and she is a sleep evangelist, also the podcast host and founder of Sleepless. And thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, Lorianne, thank you so much for having me. I am so grateful to be able to share about sleep and my story and why it's so important to healing and recovery on so many different levels. So I'm very excited to be with you and to talk about our journeys.
This is great. We had a great conversation prior to the podcast, by the way, that I should have actually taped, but we're going to go through that. Obviously, my first question always is, what prompted you to pursue being a sleep evangelist?
Yeah, so I definitely fell squarely into the camp of, I'll sleep when I die. I don't really need sleep. Sleep is kind of, it gets in the way of the life that I want to live. Like it's an interruption, to the life that I want to be having. And I that was not helpful, it turns out, especially as I hit middle age. I experienced a career burnout, depression, anxiety, and I suddenly I shouldn't even say suddenly, over time, over a couple of years, I kind of lost my ability to fall asleep easily. And so I was getting less and less sleep, and having more and more insomnia. It was causing more and more problems for me. I developed a laundry list of health issues that were all kind of systemic, you know, whole system things, rashes that would show up, and hypertension, having issues with inflammation that was causing me food sensitivities.
Mm-hmm.
I had brain fog, lots of things that were causing me problems in my life. And they were all stemming back to the fact that I wasn't sleeping well. So I had to figure out a new way to help myself go to sleep. And I tried lots of things, but necessity is the mother of invention. And despite looking high and low for an audio tool that I really um, needed, that I wanted, that I thought would work for me, I could not find one. I tried different styles of noise. I tried the various storytelling podcasts that there are. I tried just music, just nature sounds, whale sounds. None of it worked for me. And I was like, I just want someone to count me to sleep outside of my head. I want something outside of my head because my mind was very busy and I couldn't really seem to stop it or focus it anywhere. Just jumping around. In yoga, they call it, the monkey brain. It's kind of going everywhere. Um, and so I was just, I want someone to count me to sleep from like 0 to 200 or 0 to 500. And I looked for just a recording of somebody counting. That's all I wanted. And I couldn't find one that was large enough, like that was long enough, that did what I wanted it to do. So I made that tool for myself and created a podcast out of it to help others.
That's
So that's
wonderful.
how I became the sleep evangelist, because I went from thinking I don't need sleep or I hate sleep to understanding how valuable it was to my health and how much I needed to um, practice sleep, that it was actually a skill.
That's interesting. I have somebody who said that just in the last 2 weeks, she's been having a lot of hard time sleeping. And I said, is there something that occurred in your life to cause that? And she goes, no, I've always had stress. And it's just, but you've got to wonder, is there something that's missing that she's not picking up on? But we were talking about that overthinking is a real problem to getting to sleep. And it's funny that you say that, because I was in your position too. And I still have those moments where, I work all day, then I come home and you've got only this amount of time, a little bit amount of time for yourself and to have fun. And sometimes you get into something and you go too late and you're
Yeah.
super tired. You're super tired, but you don't want to go to bed because I don't want to miss out on this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's really rough.
It really is. And instead of saying, you know what, it is to your benefit to get that sleep, because the next day, yes, if I do that, if I spend a night doing that, the next day I am brain fog. I am not focused. Um, and then there's other things too that we talked about is if you say something to someone and you upset them and you regret it, and the next day you're thinking about it all the time, but even all night, right?
Yeah. I don't like when people best me in a battle of wits. So anytime someone is able to like get a quicker, better insult or comeback out at me, like I'll be thinking about that all night trying to figure out, oh, I should have said that or I should have said this.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not
it's
helpful.
crazy. So we also discussed, which I was saying is that as I'm better at sleeping now, I am better. I still, my mother keeps telling me I should get to bed earlier, and she's probably right. But I am, when I go to bed, I sleep through the night. So I don't have the insomnia. I sleep. I've got my 1.5 hours of deep sleep and so on. But when I was bulimic, I had a lot harder time. And we were talking about that food. So I love that you said you have a healthy relationship with your food, but food and the digestive system, that's a big part of the sleep process, isn't it?
It is. So there are certain chemicals that your body makes, and there are certain things that your body can only do while it's sleeping. So everything from the more rapid generation of your red and white blood cells to the bacteria, the healthy bacteria in your gut doing its job and having time to like really absorb foods and things like that. All of that happens a lot at night. And so if you're and specifically not just at night because it's the nighttime, but because your body is sleeping. So if you're not letting your body sleep, it's not doing those processes. Also, if you're depriving your body of the nutrients that it needs, it's now seeking out those nutrients elsewhere in your body and, doing problematic things to your internal organs. So you really want to eat a good meal before. It doesn't have to be a big meal. A lot of times, but you want to eat a meal a couple hours before you go to sleep. And then, ideally, you want to let your body do all of its healing processes and all of its digestion and all of its good stuff while you're resting and not causing blood to go anywhere else. It's just it's able to do what it needs to do. The other thing that's really cool about sleep that I like that I think impacts, you know, anybody who's trying to manage emotions is that when you sleep, your brain does this really cool thing where it figures out, first of all, it takes the events of the day and it sort of separates out the emotions from the actions. So what the facts of what happened versus the how it made you feel and the anger, it helps to sort of set those apart and then get rid of the things it doesn't need and sort those memories into places where they need to go. So if you're not sleeping well and you're also a person who's trying to process any kind of trauma or big emotions, you're not doing yourselves any favors while you're not sleeping, and you're not giving your brain the chance to regulate all of those hormones that affect your mood. So you're setting yourself up the next day to have a more emotional, stressed out day.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I learned as I was on this sleep journey and figuring stuff out was that your your sleep focuses, like, it helps your mind and your body to help your mind. So it's kind of a whole system thing, and that's why it does a lot of work. So that's why you need 8 hours of it a day. It's doing a big job in your life, and if you're not letting it do that job, then you're not giving yourself the best opportunities to have the success you want in your personal physical health, but also in your personal and professional growth.
It's true.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know if you touch on this, and I'm kind of curious about it. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Ask away.
I find there are some nights, uh, and like I said, I've gotten to the point where I do have my deep sleep because, of course, we can, you know, track them now with our beautiful little phones.
Yes.
I have normal, which is good because I was not at one time, a normal amount. But even to that, and crazy, and my daughter, okay, I'm going in little circles here, but my daughter, so I dream a lot about my ex-husband. And I've been
Mm.
divorced for 20 years and he still enters my dreams. And my daughter said, through her psychology, that your brain is elastic, it is a lot, it maintains certain things. And because of the years that I was with him, the memories are going to be greater and they're going to come back more than the later ones, which I found fascinating because I'm going, I want to get him out of my brain. It's like, but there are some
Yes.
nights because I'm having those dreams and some of them are okay and some of them are not, but I don't feel like I slept because I feel like I dreamt all night and it was a dream that was not fun. And there's other
Pleasant. Yeah.
dreams too, not just about him, but and I shouldn't put that because I'm okay with him, but it brings back memories that I really don't want to go back to, which because I've moved forward and I really get mad at my brain for bringing back what I'm moving forward from, and I have no control over that.
Yeah, your brain will process all of that information. So one of the things that happens, it's interesting. They're literally just now doing some really cool studies about I mean, it's terrible that you have to do it, but military people who have significant trauma and what and the kind of sleep that they get immediately after that trauma and their long-term PTSD impacts, right?
Yeah.
So if your brain is able to get a good full night's sleep and get the REM sleep that it needs immediately after a trauma, you're better able, like, once it does it that first night, like the first night of the first few nights, if you're able to do that, it's like it's a way to almost protect against worse long-term impacts of the trauma.
Okay.
But, and here's the big but, rarely are people in a situation where they've just experienced a big trauma and then they can go get a good night's sleep.
Right.
So, what we've
Interesting.
learned is that good or bad, if there is something, good emotions or bad emotions, a trauma or something that you want to celebrate, if there's something that your brain doesn't feel like it's been able to fully process, it'll keep revisiting it and revisiting it and revisiting it in your dreams. And you're right, you don't have a lot of control over it, but what's good to know is that every time it's doing it, your brain is figuring something out and it's helping you get further past it. It's helping you heal past whatever that was or helping you put whatever that was behind you and use the good part of it to further your journey forward. So sometimes it's just nice to remember, like, especially when you feel like you need an extra cup of coffee in the morning just because you had dreams that like seemed like they were filled to the brim with people that you really don't want to see again. Um, like you can be like, okay, whatever my brain needed to do, like it needed to do that, and
Ah,
I will have a better, like my neurologically, I'll be in a better place neurologically and emotionally to either engage with those memories or process the good parts of them, the valuable pieces of information, and use those to move my life forward.
I
So
love
that's,
that. You know what?
yeah.
I'm gonna do that anytime that I have a dream, whether it's, about my ex, or anything else, is that thank you, brain, for processing that. And there might be something for me to learn from it or not. Maybe you're just doing your thing. Let's
Yep.
just let her do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, generally speaking, our brains want to help us. Sometimes they can't.
yeah,
Sometimes we don't let them. Like I mean, that
yeah,
was a big part of you know, for me, a big part of depression was I'd gotten into a habit of really negative thinking, and then I
mm,
like had to relearn how to think positively again. And man, did that take a lot of sleep. That's a
yeah.
big thing to relearn and to have to refigure out and to have the patience with myself to be like, I can do this. My brain's capable of it. My body's capable of it. I just need to not be angry at myself. Like I have to give myself grace. And it's really hard to give yourself grace when you have anxiety and depression.
You're absolutely right. It's interesting to say that too, because I used to, I always knew that my brain and my body were one, but then I also thought that they were also two different things. And so, my body's saying, hey, brain, stop making her think she wants to be bulimic because we need the nutrients. And it was weird because I used to visualize that. It should be a cartoon or something because it's like, wow. And the brain would sit there and say, no, because I want this. But there's the other thing too, speaking of sleep. While I was bulimic, my dreams started getting very and I don't sleep, and you're talking about transitioning the brain working and why you need sleep, but I slept less, but also my dreams were black and white, like they were not colored. They're color now that I quit my bulimia, but they were very dark and black and white. I did not have color dreams in particularly the last part of my bulimia.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's really fascinating. I
yeah.
mean, there's some really interesting things about people who have had sight and lost their sight and what happens in their dreams over time as they adjust to having lost their sight and how their
Oh,
dreams become mostly soundscapes, which is fascinating to me. But I
yeah,
haven't heard about I haven't read or looked at anything related to color or black and white, but it's obviously indicates that to you anyway, right? That there was almost like a shutting down, right? Almost like
yeah.
a washing away or a darkening or trying to find, you know, maybe even control. It'd be fascinating to analyze some of that with somebody who knows a little bit more about dreamology.
Yeah.
But that is there's actually
But could it
I was
even
on a
be busy
podcast.
a
I was on
lot?
another podcast where the guy does do dream interpretations. It's fascinating. It was really cool. And he can help
Who's
when you
he?
like figure out he's called the Dream Wizard, Benjamin the
Yes,
Dream Wizard.
I had him on
Yeah.
my podcast. He's awesome.
Yes. Yes. Go on his show and he'll analyze your dreams.
Yeah, I was on his show.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No,
there
he's
you go. You
fantastic.
got a plug in there, Dream Wizard. He is fascinating. He's wonderful people. Just check out his podcast too. But
Yeah.
that was, and I did in that one tell him that it was very black and white and then and stuff. And he told me I had a recurring dream and it's not recurred since he told me the answer to it. Uh but I was wondering too, because you're talking about the need for sleep, and then of course, uh, and I'm bringing back the bulimia, the lack of nutrients I had, and my brain being able to process it maybe was saying like this is like I don't know, but it's making me interested in the thought that could my lack of nutrients and my lack of sleep be causing the dreams,
I
right?
mean, it
To change
seems
over
like
because they're all color
yeah,
now, but
it seems like it's absolutely possible. Also, I mean, a lot of people have to kind of hit a really low point in their lives before they're able to turn around a behavior that's, causing them a
it's
lot of
true.
negativity. And
Yes,
so you might have been in a really dark space emotionally too. And so
yes,
you might have not been able to really imagine colors in your dreams. Like your brain just couldn't go there because of
that's
where
true.
you were emotionally. That's a lot. I mean, it's so frustrating when you have a lot of dark stuff and you're trying to just figure out your coping mechanisms and live your day and like you find what makes
Can
you
I get some
comfortable and
sleep? Can I have
yeah.
some nice dreams? Can I like, I just want to go to bed. I just want to sleep
Well,
and have nice dreams. And I wish I could control there. It's a lot better now, but at the
yeah.
time, you wish you could control your non-over thoughts, waking up in the middle of the night, not being able to get back to sleep. And that's like,
Well, and just being able to have that sanctuary of sleep. If sleep
yeah,
stops being a sanctuary, that's very problematic for your
yeah,
body and your mind and your emotions, both your mental, physical health, your just well-being overall. And I think that we I think we're prone to think, oh, it was just, a bad night of sleep, because there's bad nights. Like you're
Mhm,
in a different
mhm.
bed, the sirens were going all night, whatever it was. Like maybe you just have a bad night. But as you start to accumulate more and more of those and it becomes a bigger and bigger problem, I guess a lot of times we don't necessarily realize that it's the lack of sleep that's the problem. I mean, I went to doctors and talked about my health conditions, and no one ever said, "Do you get enough sleep?"
That's true, eh?
Uh, I got told all the time, "Do you exercise and do you eat right?" Right? Like I
Yeah,
got asked that a lot, and advance like advice on diet and exercise, but not
yeah.
a single one of my primary care physicians asked me, "Are you regularly getting a full night's sleep? And do you know if you're getting all the cycles of sleep? Are you going through REM sleep? Are you sleeping
I've
well?"
never been asked that.
Yeah. And
Isn't
I
that
mean, and
interesting?
and maybe people just assume you aren't because you're having all these other issues, so they don't ask. But if they'd asked me, I might have figured out earlier in my mind how important sleep was and
Yeah.
that I needed to be doing something about it.
So please tell us a little bit about your process to help
Yeah.
people fall asleep, and a bit about your podcast too. Really would like to hear that.
Yeah. So we've got 3 seasons that are out, and I'm working on the fourth. It's late. I'm sorry, folks, but it's going to be great. And I'm adding in some tips and tools outside of just the sleep list. So it's going to be awesome, but be patient. What I do now, what's available now, are just my sleep lists. So it is a single topic curated list that I recite in a very soothing voice with a background of just light, calming, sort of meditative, even music. And they last anywhere between 15 minutes and almost an hour to help you go to sleep at night. And they're on a wide variety of topics. There's history, there's made up stuff, there's I'm coming up with a music one. There's animals, there's plants. So yeah, there's a lot of different ones out there that can fit different needs or interests. The periodic table, I always thought that was fun. So there's sciencey stuff in there too. Yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
So just for our listeners, just make sure, because I do have a lisp sometimes, so just make sure that it is sleep lists with an S.
yep.
It's not my slurring. It actually has an
It's
S at the end of it.
It's
Yeah.
all one word, sleeplists.com. You can find my website with links to all of the episodes there, as well as it's available on all the major platforms for listening to podcasts. And I always say when I do these shows, if somebody is looking for it on their favorite podcast listening device or listening platform and they don't see it, contact me through my website, sleeplist.com, and I will get it up there for you as soon as I can. It usually
Beautiful.
only takes about 10 minutes.
And I did listen to them, and it's interesting because what I thought when I was listening to them, and it's cool too, because you said you can make a longer, take some ones and make longer um
Mm-hmm.
tapings of it. But it's like, when you're a kid, your parents read to you to go to sleep. And I thought, this is like being an adult and having somebody like read to you till you go to sleep. Like it was cute.
Yes.
I thought it was
Yeah.
wonderful. So I thought, what a
Yeah.
great
But
concept.
I try to listen to the stories. Like there's plenty of those out there. There's some famous people who have done stories. Lots of people are kind of known for their calm voice or whatever. But I always would stay up until the end or until it got so absurd. Like some of them are meant to just kind of go on and get so absurd that I just got annoyed with it. I was just like, get to the point. I need to go to sleep and I can't get to the
Right.
points. So these ones have no point. It's literally just a big long list. And you know what's going to come next is going to be another element of the periodic table or another president of the United States or another country or another color of paint. Like it's nothing you really care about or that you need to know. And so as a result, it should, I hope, help you get to sleep. And I do try to keep it like I try to do the recitation to a rhythm of about 60 beats per minute, which is the resting heart rate. And so
Oh,
the average resting heart rate. And so that tends to help people fall asleep as well.
Oh, that's perfect because my heart rate
Yeah.
is a little bit high at night. And I talked to my doctor. She goes, you're still okay. You're still within that, but it's above
Mm-hmm.
60.
Yep.
I'm gonna look forward to actually trying this out and see if I can actually get it to the 60.
It's hard. Your heart is doing all of its work, and I mean, you never know. Sometimes, and sometimes it's just genetics like play a role in how fast you go and how often. I mean, if you're a marathon runner, you're going to have a lower heart rate, resting heart rate
It's
than
true.
somebody who's at a computer all day long. So,
That's true. That's true. Well, she said, I mean, really she says, as long as you got the heart rate of a regular daily heart rate, like 70, 60 to 80, not to really worry about it. But we got gadgets like this that go, pay attention. You can like, ah!
yeah,
It's
you can
like
track
Googling
everything now.
anything, right? Google anything and it's gonna tell you that, it's something horrifying. It's like,
Yeah.
leave it to the experts, right?
Yes. But
Well,
I think that, I mean, leave it to the experts, and also sometimes you just have to trust how you feel, and that's really hard, especially if you've had a difficult relationship with the way your body feels. It's
that's
hard to
true.
get back to a space where you can believe that you're tired. But I know, like, I know that for me, I used to think, oh, I'm tired when I can't keep my eyes open, and I
Yes.
now have had about a year and a half of pretty good sleep, and I now know that I'm tired when I just start touching my eyes. Like, it's
Oh,
not about keeping them open. It's not about but if I have like a little yawn, or even like if I start to like my face, like I'll touch my face a lot more, and I'm like, oh, this is something that I was just blowing right past before. I didn't even pay it any attention. And
oh,
now I'm like, oh, yeah, this means I'm tired. Like I should start dimming the lights and doing my bedtime routine and getting myself off to sleep, because it really is a whole system that you set up for yourself around sleep.
I love that thought too, because that was me too.
Mhm.
Until my eyes were really tired, I said, otherwise I'm gonna stay up and I'm gonna be overthinking. I have to wait until my eyes are ready to close before I
Right.
go
Well,
to
you
bed.
cannot keep them open anymore. And
Right?
we've been there.
Yeah.
Like, and there's still,
Yeah.
you're watching something on a screen trying to keep, your eyes
Keep your
open.
eyes open.
Don't want to miss anything, even if it's
No,
the next
right?
level on Candy Crush.
Or Netflix, the
Been
next
there.
the next
The next
episode
episode.
of your
Mm-hmm.
favorite show. I'm binging
Mm-hmm.
here. One more, one more, one more.
Mm-hmm.
And then you fall asleep and you miss five of them anyway. So like,
Yeah. And then, some loud noise on the show wakes you up. So yeah,
yeah.
if you can start to learn to listen to your body and trust yourself a little bit, it takes time and practice and grace, a whole lot of grace, and you just have to be so kind to yourself. I think the biggest thing is that you have to love yourself unconditionally, like maybe you've never even experienced before from anyone else. You have to do that to yourself to really heal, and that's hard.
I love that, and you're absolutely right. And when you get there, though, it's really good. There was a saying, I think I said this on another podcast. You are the one who speaks to yourself the most in your head than anyone. Like that anyone speaks to you, you're the one who speaks to yourself the most. So be kind. Be kind.
Mm-hmm.
Just one quick thing before we go, and I was gonna write it down, and now I forgot to what I was gonna ask. Um, had to do with the sleep and overthinking. No, it was something else. Darn it, it was a good
So,
question too.
oh, okay. Well, I mean, I do think like the the value of the giving yourself that grace is also then suddenly you're like, oh, I'm worth this sleep. Like
Yeah.
that really happens too. And I mean, a week of good sleeps, like that first week where you're like, oh my God, I've slept a full 8 hours every day for 7 days. You feel like you can function in a way that like just never happened before. It felt like and I mean, my sleep was interrupted a lot during the early stages of perimenopause too, and so I was struggling with sleep interruption and sleep disruption due to menopause, and also emotions and hormones due to menopause or perimenopause, right? Because I haven't hit the milestone of menopause yet. I'm just in this perpetual space that they say is temporary of perimenopause. doesn't feel temporary. It feels like it's forever. So all you other women out there who are in perimenopause, it's okay. And your body is so different during
Yeah.
perimenopause that
Yeah.
like a lot of stuff that used to work doesn't.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why sometimes we end up in, staying up all night watching TV, or, whatever other negative habits that we can form for ourselves that feel good in the moment, give us sort of the dopamine rush that we want in the moment, but don't actually sustain us long term.
You're right. And it's an interesting thought too, because when it comes to that, so we were talking about that too. So a lot of women are struggling. Some of them are starting, some of them are from the time they were young, they're still in the bulimic stage. Some of them are starting at 40 because of this menopausal stage where your whole body is changing, like you said. Uh, and they're becoming bulimic in their 40s and 50s to
Wow.
try, because they feel that they're going to gain weight through, or they are gaining weight through menopause. Some of them do. I was very lucky, thank God I didn't. I quit just prior to menopause, but I managed to maintain it. But some do,
That's amazing.
and
Yeah, no, lots of us do.
right.
20, so
But
well over 20 pounds that have gained during menopause, during perimenopause.
wow. But
Yeah.
what I did do though is I made sure that I did lower my consumption that I would have usually. But when I eat slow, I get full. Like I know when I'm full anyway, so I just stop. And so my friend
Yeah.
said to me, she goes, "Oh," she says, "I don't want to go for lunch with you because I'd be ordering dinner before you're done your lunch." And I'm fine with those jokes. It's okay with me, but that's how I've built my life around it. And like you, I have a really good relationship with food now, which is awesome. Um, but yeah, so uh and sleep, yeah, you're right, you got the hot flashes and all of that stuff that goes on, and so on. um so
Yeah.
yeah, it could interrupt your sleep, but it could
Well,
interrupt a lot of things, your emotions, everything.
well, and I think it's such a it was, I mean, I grew up in a time when it felt like it was a taboo topic among the people that I had to look up to. So nobody talked about no one talked about the brain fog, the
Yeah.
forgetting, the
Yeah.
weight gain, occasionally maybe someone make a joke about having their own personal summer for a hot flash, but like, I mean, people, no one talked about night sweats and the fact that you needed to
No.
change the sheets in the middle of the night. Like,
No.
and so I think that then when this starts happening to us now, like those of us who are there or who have been there, we're sort of confused, like our bodies have betrayed us.
Yeah.
Instead of, because we had no we had no we had nothing to do to know to expect it, because
Mhm.
it was hidden from us by our previous generation and considered shameful, and therefore our bodies go through these transitions. 100% of us have some symptomology from perimenopause. If we're fortunate enough to reach it, we've got some sort of symptomology because your body's going through a whole chemical change.
Yeah.
and and it might be as little as, you're just noticing more wrinkles or whatever, but there's something happening. And we've tried so hard to hide it, or we feel so ashamed of it,
Yeah.
or like, and then we have no idea what to do about it. So we just find coping mechanisms. And unfortunately, like you were saying, it might be women who have never had a problem with eating or disordered eating behaviors, but all of a
Yeah.
sudden develop a disordered eating behavior because what else are they going to do? They don't have any help. There's no, like, there aren't even
Yeah.
really, there are some good books out there now, but like they're hard to
Yeah.
find. It's hard to find even a good, like, until 2 or 3 years ago, it's been hard to find a good podcast about it. So if you're not looking, you're not going to
Sure.
find them. Um, so I don't want anyone to feel shame
Yeah.
for coming across a coping mechanism that seemed like it worked for them in the moment or was the best that they could do at the time. And even if they knew it wasn't, even if they knew like they shouldn't do this somehow, like it's not right, it was working for them in the moment, and they just have to find healthier behaviors that'll work for them now. And
Yeah.
sleep can help you have the energy to do that because it's a big job to help yourself.
Absolutely. And I just want to end this with, I'm very proud of my colleague who is in the same situation. She'll go, I'm having a hot flash, and she has no problem within her colleagues, with her
Yeah.
colleagues. But we're family, right? You just go, oh, I'm having, and I'm going, been there, done that, honey. I'm over that part. And it's a big thing for women too, because this is at the point where you understand that you're not going to have it, it's weird, even if you don't want children. I had my 3 children, but knowing that that was not going to be an option anymore was a very
Yeah.
strange mindset. That's an era was ending. Men don't have
Yeah.
that, women do. Like, and it's
Yes.
big. So
It's
yeah, share,
huge.
get a lot of sleep, and be open about it, because we're all going through it. We've all gone through it. And we're there to support each other as women, because that's really important, that we support each other through this period. I know puberty for the younger ones need it too, but we need it. We need it.
Right. I mean, they've got, I think school, even if your school isn't that great about putting together health classes or, puberty education or whatever,
Yeah.
you're in such a, all of you are in the exact same age group. You're all moving along at the exact same way. Whereas, in the real world, after in adulthood, I've got, you're in an office and you have a colleague that's 18 and you have another colleague that's, 80 and
Yeah,
and so
that's
you don't
true.
necessarily bond over those physical things in the same
It's
way because you're
true.
not all experiencing them at the same time.
Yeah.
And yet it's so helpful. I mean, I was in an office when I was pregnant with my daughter, where it was a lot of women, almost 60 women, and there had been 13 of us who had babies within the 18-month period,
Oh my
right?
God.
So like we were our own little cohort of like, how do you get your kid to sleep, or what do you
Yeah.
do about this? And you don't necessarily have that
No,
unless you're in an office like that for perimenopause. And so yes,
true.
talk about it. Don't feel embarrassed about it. Your
No.
body is doing things that it's meant to do, but aren't necessarily easy to navigate. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I always like to just say sleep is not going to hurt anything. So if you get better sleep, you'll probably have a reduction of some symptoms that you're feeling, um, even if it can be really hard in the middle of the night with hot flashes and sweats and stuff like that.
I agree. And I love it. And it is. I know that sleep is very important. And I would imagine along with that, just everybody look into your mattresses too, because and pillows, because those are really important. And what was okay, I keep going on, but they say that how, like, in the scope of life, really, how many hours you're awake versus where you sleep, the sleep is like 1/3 of your
One
life.
third of your life. Yep.
So make
One
sure
third of
that
your
that
life.
bed is good for you, because it'd be like living
Yes.
in a house that you don't like. It's like, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it can be really hard to find the right bed, and it's a big investment sometimes to find the
It
right
is.
bed. If you're a single sleeper and you don't have a partner, it can be a little bit easier because you find the bed that meets your needs and you just invest, a little bit in that bed for the 5 to 8 years that your mattress is good. My partner is like opposite in height and size and weight than me, and so um I still want to be in bed with him. Like we love sleeping next to each other and cuddling and snuggling, but we needed a bed that could actually adjust the sides. And so we had to get one of those inflatable mattress kind of things where you can pump up how much the mattress is inflated on one side or the other. And I find that
Okay.
super helpful because I work out some days really hard and some days I don't. Some days my muscles need a different kind of cushioning. So I
Oh,
really like having the adjustable bed just for daily changes. And it's not really daily, but
yeah,
there are ebbs and flows of like I don't stick to one setting. I pump it up and down as I feel like I need.
that's
So
really interesting. Didn't hear
yeah.
about that before, so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
again,
So
thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. All the listeners out there, I wish you wellness and restfulness, and sleep is part of recovery. So I hope you include it in your journey.
Thank you so much. We're really glad to meet you. Thanks,
All
Helen.
right. Thanks, Lorianne. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit me at bleepbulimia.com.